front of you. You can get an email, take a look at it. If you don't have objections, maybe we can vote on it at the end just to get going, or if it's too bad, then I'll send out a revised copy.
Here's John to make his customary motion.
Critique within 7 days or
Do you want a motion to accept the minutes? Second. As distributed, pending the opportunity for anybody on the committee to make the revisions over the next week.
Thank you.
Second.
You have my email. Call me.
So that's it. You have a motion in a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Don't
take it
forget
easy.
to ask if anyone's opposed. You always have to remember that.
Anyone opposed?
Give them a chance. Thank you.
Minutes approved in 7 days.
We all let our shares, this is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, there's the
Have you looked at that already?
Yes, I read it all.
Is that more than one?
Yeah, there's 3.
Priorities.
Yeah, there's a square, improvements to Crozet Park and Western Park.
So we need to introduce ourselves also. I'm John McKeon, very green.
I can just read them.
Secretary, Assistant Chair.
I'm Ally Pesh.
I'm Sean Burke.
Sandra Mears.
I'm Jenny Moore.
Kim Gunther.
And now,
Dean Lyson.
Mike Kunkel.
Lester Burns.
Doug Bates. Bill Best.
Yes. Good.
So first on the agenda is this neighborhood improvement funding initiative, where we whittled it down bit by bit, and now I think our best approach is to look at what Dave typed up in terms of these one-page summaries, and what other members have typed up in terms of these one-page summaries. And if there's any way we can improve them, or streamline them, or make them more specific, more applicable to the master plan, to really elucidate how they're gonna benefit community here, I think that's where we kind of have the discussion.
Could we get some feedback from the board of supervisors? That was staff, we had to do that.
Yeah. And, would you like to do that?
So there was a discussion, and the presentation by staff very nicely of the elements from each one of the advisory councils. Of course, there were gobs of wonderful ideas. Everybody was, all the board members were very appreciative of the fact that there's a whole new level of engagement in life since this program was designed. And even though we haven't solved the complete decision about exactly how to do it, the fact everybody says, well, we've done the right thing because, look at this is great. Other communities are really being able to now follow the lead that you all have shown for 10 years and really taking the bit and running with you. So I think there's great encouragement for that. And no, while there was some temporary pushback from one member who, I don't really know why, but said, well, you know, we need to decide how we're going to use the money and pick and choose. And I went, wait a minute, no. The whole point we did before was that each bucket, there would be a bucket for each CCA or CAC, and that if there was not a project that had been nominated that met the criteria, then it would sit. I mean, there's no interest in putting money out for things that do not meet the very well-established and well-discussed criteria about being from the master plan and being in the right timetable category, so it's not a 20-year project, but a 1 year or a shorter design than the next year project. But that we needed to maintain the investment for each neighborhood. And I think there was really good support to keep that going. And that was basically where this fight was where we ended it. And so the table will have more. We sent them out to do, the staff to work on the cost estimates. And this is conceptual cost estimates, not ready for bids, for the various top projects. And so they'll go discuss those, we'll have those back before the June meeting, and we'll really dig into the thing. And Emily, did I hear your voice back there? What did I miss?
So on June 14th, at 4 PM tentatively, we'll be coming back to the Board of Supervisors with a couple of different options for how to allocate money to all the different CACs, and then also what the process for getting to a final project selection would look like. And so once the board approves those two items, we'll come back out to you all with sort of what the next steps will be. And we expect to come back to the board for sort of a final project approval by October.
So in that meeting on the 14th, is that where you will cover questions like timing of funding, how funding might be allocated, whether it's being given directly to the group that's doing the project? Or is it, or are the projects managed under a division within the county?
So at the
I
expectation.
set some questions out.
That's right, and we did not really dig into those questions about, and I think the example behind the questions is the work that was done at the park, where the county funds from the tennis courts were transferred to the park and leveraged $200,000 into $1 million through all the different ways that nonprofits do things, and was able to generate a whole lot bigger project than we ever could have done with county dollars alone. And that was a painful process for everyone to get the confidence to be able to do that, both on the park side and for county staff who wasn't used to handing it over, the management over, but it was a great success. So I think that will be something that should be flexible depending on the skill level and the various projects which are on the list among the different neighborhoods. We're trying to avoid having one size fits all because that would be a failure right there.
Well, shall we talk specifically about our highest priorities for a little while?
Can we review what the highest priorities were? I don't have
The square had the highest votes by a small amount.
Wasn't it the, it's
the trail.
Small dollar.
Yeah, right, the small. Small dollar.
Park horse for the small one.
The
Small
crushed
one.
stone, super dam, street stage improvements number 3. And these kind of are all in the same neighborhood of those, and then there's a fairly large drop off here. And then the larger dollar projects were the square number 1, and just behind that, development of Western Park. And then further down is like pedestrian path and trail. It's kind of tied with the airport.
Since the last meeting, I've heard from quite a few people who were very interested in the trail from Highlands in and to connect up with the trail that the trail group has built starting at Western Ridge, I guess, to that outer eastern rim, which is what they're
Of course, the
really excited about hearing.
biggest problem with that is we're gonna have to get them on the railroad tracks.
Move them.
Well, I mean, there is a bridge, the Western Ridge.
Well, they just have
East
to,
Road.
we can't say it, but some of them will sneak up the railroad track.
Do we want to do the small projects first, or how do you want to do it?
Well, did people have concerns or changes to any of these? I mean, is that an important thing to find out, or how?
I haven't really heard anything about that.
There was a lot of really good work on putting this information together.
I'm gonna see if I can get it through mine printed out, instead of printing out, just basically do that.
And I do not see a write-up of what was, or maybe it's, just streetscape improvements for the square, is that the focus on the square?
Yeah.
Okay. talking about in division of dollars?
50,000.
Fair,
$50,000
less.
for the, and how much for the major one?
Over.
What is the total?
Total amount of funding available
Isn't it
Correct. 1.4 million.
Split
for all the different
divided by
pieces?
7?
Right.
I mean, the 200,000 was the general idea, as far as the initial. So the square entirely would need some matching funds from elsewhere, whether it's end of the year after the audit or improvement funds, or one of the maintenance buckets
You
for
go from
the,
2 to 300,000.
to get up to the.
300.
And my understanding is that money would qualify as a revenue sharing match. But I hope we don't have to go that one.
So is the question then, that we divvy the money between two projects of different sizes, or that we go for the only here?
I think if there's a prioritization recommendation, that would be the most helpful. So that,
So right now, we're going by points of what was assigned based on the voting that was done in the community. And that's how we came up with the ones that were written up.
The instructions, what I recall, the instructions are, we're not determining which ones get done, we're making recommendations, the board will determine.
That's right, yeah. But I'm saying in this group, the way we, the reason those are written up is just based on.
But are we looking at 6, or are we looking at 2 sets of 3?
I think it's up to this group to decide what
I think
they
we
want to
could
push up to the
we could
board.
Prioritize 1 through 6, really.
Okay.
Not to do
I'm just
like
saying,
1,
because
2,
we
3,
were talking
1.
about small pot, big
Yeah, I
pot,
don't think it
but
needs to be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We can say like, what's our favorite thing, and then let the board decide
that's exactly, okay, that's what I was asking. Okay.
how, you know, so
Well, I think
2 or 1.
Yeah, part of what we should consider when we're deciding what our favorite thing is which thing meets the criteria that the board laid out for these projects. So some might stand out amongst other projects that we all are really excited about as meeting those intended uses that were outlined, that I think Dave sent out in the email that I don't have, but there were several
This
bullets.
should not have gotten to us if they didn't meet the criteria. We should not be talking about something that didn't meet the criteria. And
well,
this-
we could,
Well,
I
we
have the
did put
criteria here, we
figures
can make
on
sure.
things that cost, you know, $2 million, and I don't know that that, but I think now that we've narrowed it down, I think, you know, we want to push things towards the board that meet the criteria that they gave us, so they would look more favorably at those.
Which are the ones we would call the small projects. The bigger projects, it wasn't that they'd never be funded, but that to fund them completely, we couldn't do it with this money, so we could either do a study on it, or we can just get it in front of people's attention.
Yeah, it seems to me that's the question. I mean, the square improvement's got the most points. It has matching funds if we get to that amount, you know what I mean? But if we do that, then they're on that money's gone. We've spent our money on the one project.
It's kind of a question for the community too, is should we try to do one big thing or 3 or 4 small things? Well, 2 or 3 perhaps.
1 or 2.
1 or 2. Several small things.
I recall someone at the last meeting, made a very good point that I think is worth revisiting. One was that the square got the strongest vote from the community as well as on the board. And that if you hope to accomplish something with a legislative body, and that it's maybe best to focus on one thing and indicate very clearly that the community is behind that one thing. Get things started so that you can start, I mean, we all want many things. But the only way to get anything is to start with one thing.
I agree with
And
that.
get that out.
Especially in terms of the square, to me, it seems like that's our best chance for leveraging, not just the matching funds, but also leveraging.
The next step, exactly.
The next step of what's bound to happen.
Right.
And it's not just that too, I mean, if we can leverage having the square going, you know, next time someone comes and says, hey, we want to expand the growth area to the highway and put up a hotel, you know, then we can we've got a hotel coming right here, because we started this already and it's progressive. I totally agree with that.
I have a question. I thought this is what we did last time. I think this is what the last meeting was for. It came out with the last meeting, we said, well, there are 3 or 4 projects that are cheap enough to get going, that we can get going with them. Let's rank those, and then let's think of the projects that we can complete with this, and see how they are. And so we came up with 2 lists, and we decided that. I mean, that was the decision.
That's why these were written up, I thought.
Yeah. Heather, do you
So,
remember?
so the reason that, that staff had recommended and put together the projects under the 2 lists, like the under 50K and the over 50K, was because the board had not yet given direction on how the funding might be allocated, and there was some talk of, well, maybe there'll be one big project and then everyone else will get, you know, much smaller projects. And so we wanted to make sure that there were opportunities for all of the development areas to have projects that sort of would fit both molds. Now that the indication is that all the development areas will get some, you know, similar amount of money, we don't know exactly how that'll get divvied up at this point. I think, you know, with that information, reflect on what's on your list, your 2 lists, and, you know, knowing that all 7 areas are going to get some larger amount of money, you know, some of those bigger dollar amount projects might be feasible, or as you all mentioned, you know, maybe it's the study that leads to the eventual project. Those may feel more achievable now that you know sort of what the universe of funding might be available. So that was why we broke it out into 2 lists initially, to make sure that everybody had something. But now I think knowing that you'll have somewhere around $200,000 potentially, that might change how you feel about which project should move forward.
One thought I have is alternative to emphasizing the square is, could we emphasize the square and cap it at like 150 and then still shoot for our top from the under 50 group? So sort of really advocate for 2, knowing that it may not be possible, but maybe we could get 2 out of this instead of just 1.
I guess it just depends on how short that 150 leave, either A, leave what has to be done in the square, or B, precluded getting the matching funds for another 300,000. If it came down to, you know, not getting potential matching funds, you're looking at another 300K, that's a lot of money. I guess the only thing that might change is if it's the CIP, is if we can get any more money, can we expect any more money from the CIP?
There are a lot of different discussions about, and I'm still working on the element that this is a county responsibility, it's a county risk, they've got to fix their property. And like yesterday, is my approach, and I keep bringing that up in that way. So, some of the money from this could be used as a commitment from the community to say, we want biddable documents prepared on this work. So that when the right interval comes at the end of the fiscal year, we have actual costs to go to bid on. This is something that was suggested to me by staff. I think it's a good idea because those processes, it's not, I don't want anybody to be discouraged to think that we're going to go study whether this should be done or not. This absolutely has to be done. It's getting the nuts and bolts written down in the right format so that some company can come and say, yes, for $250,000, we're going to commit this. Because that is the rough estimate that I originally was told, and it may or may not stick to that, depending on what they find underground when we start digging up to do the drainage.
What's that cost to the study?
I thought that was in the 25 to 30 range or something like that, but that will get all those different aspects nailed down. Well, this says to 75,000, but that seems like an awful lot for the biddable document, but I will have to check on that. To be ready, to shovel ready is what we want to do. And then expecting that the completion funds would come along.
Well, and how flexible do you think the process is? I mean, could we say we have 2 projects we're emphasizing? One's around 150, one's for 50. And then they say, well, we really don't support the one for 50. Then can we say, well, then our first one we'd like to bump up to the full 200? I mean, is that an option?
I think all ideas are an option. I can't predict exactly how the discussion's going to go. I think it'd be great if a lot of people are there on the 14th to listen to the discussion and then weigh in to with your thoughts as well. But I think that we have to take all the work that the advisory councils have done and marry that with the concept cost estimates that are coming from staff and some details about the timetables and that kind of thing that staff can give us in the next month, the next few weeks, to be able to get to the next step on it. I think that having several different options is a really great way to go. I mean, number one, you've done all the thinking about all these different ways to do this. And I want to see that presented as well.
So what you're saying, but there's a question here that I think is some ambiguity about. I would be against just giving them two, because they're gonna make the decision. So I think we should rank order all that have passed. And we can rank order them. They've already been rank ordered in some way. We could rank order them again. But I don't think we should cut anyone out, because that may be the one that they go for. Okay. So,
Is there going to be a propensity to go against what the CACs?
I think they're probably going to take the lead from the CCAC.
I would certainly encourage
they're gonna
you to
take
do
some
that.
lead in the CCAC.
That's pretty much, they throw all that out.
Yeah, I was very bold to say that they're not going to approve.
Yeah, I mean, the whole basis of the process has been to have bodies like this be the conveners and the gatherers of the ideas from all the
I
members.
mean, the argument could be made, you may improve your chances of getting two if you only put two forward and you say, we feel very strongly about these two. Yes, we
And
hope we
here's
can
the rest of
squeeze
the
it
list.
into 200.
But you're saying, still say, here's the rest of the list. But my sense
But
is,
there are things on the parking lot that didn't qualify by those 6 categories that are still really good ideas. Some
so
of
they
them
are gonna go to
could
the
have.
board. That's the question I have. Are they gonna go to the board, or some of them gonna die tonight?
They'll all be
Well, we're not
available,
gonna die.
because as we said from the very
They're all
beginning,
priorities.
things that don't get done right now will still be in there because they need to be done sometime.
So our priorities, including all the others, will go to the board.
That's part of the whole package process, yes. And the things that would not, there were a couple of things on the parking lot that are contrary to the comp plan, one of them being the sewer and water on Half Mile Branch suggestion. The reason it's on the parking lot is that it is not does not go with the master plan. So that's something that would not go anywhere unless there were other changes that were made first. I see no problem in saying these, either this one or these two are our highest priorities. And, or as you already know, we've looked at these other 4 too, and we're still going to be working forward on those as we can. So that there's the whole story is being told. And I think the work's already been done. You all have really done a great job. I just want to make sure that if there are other thoughts that people have, that they need to be discussed tonight, so that that can be conveyed.
Whether we adopt 1, 2, or 6, it really falls upon you eventually to be our representative on that board and make our case and remember our priorities, all 200 of them.
It's a list as long as your arm.
As long as
Just the sidewalks from here to West Hall and back that's 20 years worth of nifty projects right there to get all those older neighborhoods connected with sidewalks, because they've been the places where all the traffic goes to get to the new neighborhoods, and it's been one
Except
of
for
those early
3 Notch.
2000s decisions. That was
Except for 3 Notch Run.
So do we want to try to prioritize what we have so far?
Out of our top 3, this is a small project, right? But
It's small,
Was this the one that was lumped in with other?
Which one is that you mentioned?
I just don't, I'm not seeing, I have the Crozet Square, out of the bigger projects, Western Park, Crozet Square, and then I thought the park,
no, that's small.
that was small.
What was the next? What was
the
the
gravel-
next?
the
gravel
Crozet
on
Trail.
That was a
On
big
the
one.
Crozet Trails
Is
is
the
one of the
Crozet
top.
connector gravel big or little?
I'm sorry?
Is that a over 50 or under 50? The one you wrote?
What's
There was a little.
The crushed rock on the
Yeah.
trail? It can be very, very small, depends on how far much of the trail you're gonna do.
Oh, okay, I thought you had an
The
idea.
sidewalk, multi-use path on Green Oak Road.
Okay, and those
The one on the
rates
road is
by,
that's minor. and
so for the higher price projects, it was the square was per square, and the trail, multi-use.
And then the Western Park, and then the, like.
So there's some multi-use.
Right, so are we just send, I mean, do you want us to send those forward, or do you want us to, as a group, recognize that those were the top ones that were voted on by the community, but put forth a recommendation on one or two or more as, not from me, but from the CCAC?
The will of the group can be written up, absolutely, that would be helpful.
Is it the group's will to refine that list for the
Well, I thought
board?
we wanted to know, we wanted to maybe merge all six.
If you wanted to.
The one list of priorities, instead of having two ones or two twos.
Okay.
Right.
I think there's still a question of how exactly this is gonna be presented on the 14th. You know, are we aiming to get a resolution that has 1 through 6 tonight, that's just gonna be what we think on the 14th? Or are we just gonna leave this nebulous, and whoever shows up on the 14th that makes the most noise gets their priorities bumped up in front of the.
I would be thrilled if there were a resolution generated, doesn't have to be tonight, but about the conclusion this evening, just because it's a nice orderly way to present it. And people can have it ahead of time, and all the backup information that we've all been handed out tonight would also be part of that.
Who is inputting, I read where somebody complained that it shouldn't be crushed rock, it should be something softer to the dogs read. Who's putting in those comments that you got from the public?
I think there are a wide array of information and different ideas. I think there are design parameters that you need if you're going to be able to push a stroller or have a wheelchair. You have to have compacted. It doesn't have to be concrete, but it certainly can be something which is firmed up so it doesn't have maintenance problems and also doesn't support the human-pushed vehicles.
This isn't the big stuff, this is little compacted, crushed
But did
stones.
anybody write back to her, or?
No, I'm saying somebody made that comment, I read it when it came around.
Yeah, I think anybody can
can
email the CCAC.
I don't think we're ever gonna make everybody happy. Right? I think somebody will always find fault with something.
Maybe so, but why do we keep asking for input if we're not gonna pay any attention to it?
Well, there was a lot of input at the last meeting, and that input seemed to agree that the crushed stone was the way to go on the trail.
We're not talking rough stuff, it's like the Monticello trail.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah.
Very small, fine crushed stone.
Yeah.
It's not like the big sharp stuff.
Yeah, dogs will be fine.
Okay, so just, she didn't get an answer, she just made a comment. We asked her for input and then,
Where was that?
She emailed it to
Oh,
Allison.
okay.
those emails that come around, I tend to read them.
Yeah, well, the hope is the chair would respond or get feedback from the people who know about this, what type of stuff.
I think that would be Dom's, right? That would be the county parks and rec folks that are responsible for the trails to describe what their plan is, right?
Right.
Because they're responsible for it.
I mean, the goal would be, there would be a response to that person. It might not be what she wants to hear. In that case, maybe it was, but we've also had people who want us to build a skywalk across the train tracks. And we can respond, but
Yeah.
the answer is
I
yes.
think that question goes to the county, because they're responsible for the maintenance of the trails.
Yeah.
Right, not us.
So if we merge the lists, are you looking for that to like sort of show us that if there's a project that stands out that's a higher ticket item, it might knock out some of our ability to pick some of the lower price items?
I mean, is there something that, you look through all of these that really stand out, that would be number one and number two? I'm asking.
I have an opinion, but I'm
Sure.
also not.
Seems to me that it overwhelmingly got the votes to do it. I don't mind handing in a priority list, but the question is, A, are we handing in a priority list with numbers associated with it? I don't want to put in for this and then say we're just going to put $150,000 in for it, and then because we put $150,000, it just dies because it didn't meet the criteria for the 300
And perhaps the decision shouldn't be based upon the cost to eliminate everything, but just on the topics, so that as the numbers shift, which they probably will, as more concept details are developed for the pricing, then people will have to be nimble about that when the packet comes out the week before, the beginning of June. Everybody can do some more homework and see if there's other feedback that needs to be
Well,
generated.
the majority of the folks voted for the square, unless there's some compelling reason not to support it by this group. I don't know why we wouldn't just follow suit with what we voted.
Yeah, I think so too.
and work out.
Sorry.
So does anyone object to the square not being the top priority? Based on the citizen being the top priority, considering the.
John, there's some questions behind
Sorry.
that.
Hi. Do y'all have the vote totals? Or would you like them?
We have them, not everyone has it.
Okay.
We can pass them around to people in the city.
On the large projects, the square got 274 votes. Western Park got 273. Emily, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And then the trail improvements was a little over half of those totals at 150. These are the large projects.
Yep.
The small projects, Crozet Park improvements at 340 is what I jotted down. And crushed stone for the Crozet Connector Trail was 296. And streetscape, street light decorations was 234. And those are your top three votes totals in each in both categories.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, John. It was in the, what was presented to county council for the last one.
So I guess the question now is how to sort out 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Because I think we all can agree on the consensus number 1.
No, we can't. Excuse me.
We never had a vote on that.
So between number one and
Let's
Western
make a motion. and let's vote
Streetscape
one way or the
versus
other.
Western Park. Western Park.
And perhaps I can throw one more can of worms in there, and that is that the needs assessment for the Western Park needs to be upgraded because of the time that's passed since the first design was done, and the other sort of community changes which have happened. So I think that is on Parks and Rec's agenda. And one of the things I can find out about is there a cost to that needs assessment that could be done?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what
Well,
you're
there was a
saying.
design for development of the Western Park.
Right.
And it included a very big, expensive pavilion out at the end of that dirt, what is now visible as the dirt spit. It's been improved. And then I think there's been discussion, it hasn't come to any conclusion, but in the ensuing years, I think, seeing it more as a natural park with small sort of intramural or recreational playing fields as it is now, and great places for the little kids to do their soccer team practices close to home during the week and that kind of thing, is more what the community has related to me than a design to have some really improved, great big full field that one group at a time gets to use. The challenges of the waterways and everything around the fields too is something that may not really allow those original designs to be carried out.
So it sounds like you're discouraging us.
Well, I just want to make sure that we do get what we're asking for first, and that's an intermediate step that we don't have the answer to right now. But it is something that could be certainly reported to the board, that prioritizing that needs assessment update to be done is one way to go about that.
We're like starting a planning over and actually.
Questions.
Right, so I
That
guess the
doesn't
question.
maybe fit the,
Well, it's probably not going to be immediate, but it
yeah, I
definitely.
mean, I don't know if it fits the nifty
If you
criteria.
Right, that's what it sounds like. That's exactly what I was hearing.
Could I just add a point of information, since you're talking a little bit about the Western Park? The developer of Old Trail donated 16 acres of land for that park. And in exchange for that, the county waived the development code requirement that the developer build top lots, basketball courts, or anything else in Old Trail. Which means at the present time, there's one top lot in all of Old Trail, and there will be no others, because the county waived that requirement for the donation of the land. which means if nothing is done at the Western Park, you basically have probably several hundred young people with no free access to any public recreational space in that entire
So what
community.
I'm saying
wait,
is
wait,
that
wait,
the
wait.
parks and
Like
in their neighborhood.
You mean within Old Trail?
Within Old Trail,
Okay.
yes.
Right, so what you were saying was that the park manager understands that.
I mean,
And they're working on it.
Well, it is in their list of things, their tasks for this year.
has the Old Trail Board of Directors ever seen the master plan that was originally done for the park?
Yes,
I'll let Jim speak to that.
yes.
And what was their view of it, albeit the view of one neighborhood? Because it's a western park, in other words, it's a community park.
Correct.
Okay.
It's for the entire community.
Right.
So I do think that the, the ultimate build-out of the park would benefit the whole community and certainly addresses each of the criteria for this project. So the ask for Western Park, just to be clear, is that the funding be provided to revise the master plan that currently exists. Hopefully there's some value to the existing plan. Ann alluded to some of the issues that have been uncovered, over the years as to parts of the original master plan that are not workable. So getting the plan revised is necessary to get the ball rolling for this park. The park is actually part of the Crozet master plan. It's specifically designated to build the Western Park at Old Trail. It's been approved by the Board of Supervisors. It would be for the benefit of the entire community. If our population in this area is going to double over the next 10 years, I think we all understand we're going to need to look for opportunities to have places where people can recreate. And, there's a lot of interest in nature sites, which this would afford. I mean, if we double the population here, the pressure on the existing facilities is going to be enormous. And so I think it is in line with the criteria ultimately. The ask is not for all the dollars so that Western Park can be built. It's so that the plan can be revised, which I said would enable us to get the ball rolling and to start looking for other sources of funding.
Could that be outside of this MIFI process?
But I think, from what Ann said, that's sort of in process already, right? Without
The step one of it is what I have to find out, if it's the summer or the fall, or when they're planning to get going on that.
I think unfortunately, the county seems to forget that having that park and it was part of the quid pro quo for Old Trail and the increased density it got over and above the master plan.
Exactly.
And we have, so for them to say, oh, turn around now and give us flack about something that was promised us, this is so, I remember when we used the word concurrent infrastructure all the time. If it got built, we were supposed to have concurrent infrastructure.
It was supposed to, you have more density with common green
Not trying to
space
kill the
with that
messenger, but,
design.
I think it's incumbent on us as a community to go back to the board and remind them of their promises.
Right. That is something that should already be in process without this.
It is on the CIP, it just hasn't been funded in the CIP.
But is it also
Is that
the
not
square?
also true of the square?
The
No,
square is
it's
also.
not. It's not part of the CIP.
The square is not on this.
That's why this is important.
So what we're proposing then is probably to get it up, to get the big funds on the CIP by putting it in this project, and by requesting some of these funds go to help set that up.
And get it shown there would be our recommendation.
We have a motion.
So given that, is it square
There's no motion.
of all this stuff?
So just for the sake of moving forward or stopping, I would motion that we follow the lead on what's been prioritized and we submit the square as a number one item for consideration.
Second.
All in favor?
Can we have a little discussion?
The discussion?
Yeah, I think you want to have
Discussion.
discussion.
Yeah, it seems like statistically insignificant, 274, 273.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when Crozet Park, about 340
But the significant difference, I think, is the fact that one is,
One's big and one's little.
one is on the current
One's already in the CIP,
and
one's already in process, and one's not.
Right.
I think that's dramatic.
There can be no question that we want all, we want both.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do we get movement forward on any?
Or we could
Without even ranking.
spin over the
Most of
oath,
them
let
on
the
there.
board
because they-
decide.
Yeah. Yes,
To
sir.
throw a wrinkle at you all. So there is a thought that part of the next part of the process would be some level of scoping of the projects, because some of them are excellent ideas on paper, and they've been, on various lists for some time. But you need to do a certain level of extra research into land permissions and acquisitions, and how much will it really cost, and there may be some geotechnical work that needs to be done. And so part of the summer, where the staff is thinking, would be sort of a scoping piece, where maybe a couple of projects are looked at a little bit closer to see like which one, are there any that are going to be way beyond the scope of what this project could fund. And so I think at this point, I think we're not expecting that we'd come out of these, what month is it, May? May meetings with a number one from all the different CACs. But that this is an important part of the sort of getting to what are the top couple that you all think are most important to move forward.
Well, it also seems important for Ann to follow some leads on funding sources that may be already available for some of these projects, whereas others might not. And then I think that speaks to what you're saying, like with just using Western Park as an example. This is $50,000 to fund a revised master plan.
Can I just remind you, there's a motion on the table, so we should
Okay,
limit our
but we're having
discussion to just the
discussion.
motion.
Okay.
Not to Western Park, but to the motion of the streetscape improvement.
Well,
And once we vote on that, we can talk about anything you want to.
It seems to me that to vote on that as number one, you have to discuss what might otherwise be. So I think you're not in.
What I agree, and what my point was, are we gonna spend $50,000 on a master plan to tell us that we have a park that might cost $3 million? So, I mean, if some of, like, getting out what we're really talking about here in money, I'm not inclined to spend $50,000 to tell me that we have a really expensive park due to the nature of the property that was proffered, and that sort of thing. So-
Along those same lines, even if we do that, spend this money to update the plan, it's not shovel ready. Streetscape, if I'm understanding how the funding works, NEFA funding, that we do this, isn't the idea we're supposed to, that if we spend the money, it's.
This particular project, that what the money would be spent for is getting it ready to bid.
Right. And what
It's
you're
a slightly different
you're-
stage than some of
And
the
you're
others.
suggesting there may be other pots of money that could help with this revision of the master plan and
That is my.
where we are with the Western Park project, which is a priority that might make it more appropriate to use this money somewhere else. That was all.
Well, this update's already funded. Parks and Rec is already gonna be doing this.
That's
to
my
update this.
understanding. I want to make sure
Okay.
where in the month timetable it's happening.
Okay.
That's what I don't know.
So that's key. I mean, this
Did you
update's
say
already
that on
funded.
Western Park?
I'm sorry?
That's Western Park?
This is Western Park. If there's
Right.
funding, if there's CIP funding through Albemarle County Parks and Rec
Right.
to go ahead and update this plan,
Right.
then it's not a NEFA, it shouldn't be considered by NEFA. NIFA.
Do we know what the Park Service is doing?
I'm sorry? Are they doing it? I think Ann's
Ann doesn't know what month, but
I want to find out. what
But
the
we can,
timetable
we're not solidifying this is the only project that's gonna get funded, but there is a motion on the floor to have the square as number one.
And I haven't heard anything yet that would indicate that there's another project from anybody that should have a priority over projects that has another 300,000 attached to be done funding. If someone else can make that
Clearly,
case.
you haven't read about hardcore stuff.
Yeah, just to clarify, the 50,000 is the best guess based on what the cost of the initial master plan was.
That's right.
When I inquired of the county and staff, no one was able to give me a number of what they thought a revision would cost. And if you look at my one-pager there, I acknowledge that that's the best guess and that's what it's based on. And secondly, and Ann, I didn't hear from anyone that the funding for the revision of the plan was already set somewhere in the budget.
I want to ask Bob if that's included in their work plan for this year, because I don't have the answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
There are a whole bunch of different things that they're working on in 2017, I just don't know where this is.
Okay.
So if we vote now to say, yes, we're gonna make Crozet Square number one right now, do we have, it sounds like Emily makes it sound like it's not like the last word. There's gonna be a whole scope of
There's a whole
work
evolution
that-
of process.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's difficult when most lay people don't work in this sort of thing often. I mean, we feel like, oh my God, we have to make this choice right now, and then we can't, then that's it. But it sounds to me like we're gonna vote to prefer the square over the other ones, but that doesn't mean that at the end of the day, that's set in stone, and we can't change our mind once the scope is set and a better idea of what's being funded and what's not. Is that right?
If some miracle came along and the money for the square came totally from somewhere else, yeah, we just say done and go on to the next one.
And I guess my question is, if we take this list that we have from last meeting and we shorten it, is that going to accomplish anything? Or if we just leave it there? Because we can't make a final decision until we have all the information. And I've always felt that with this process, that we're ahead of the county on this.
Well, I think the list that you have is a great list, and it doesn't have to be done, changed in any way, as long as everybody has had a chance to look at it and assimilate it and make sure that you're happy with it, then I think it should go forward.
Then we can just say we
We've been
agree
through
that
this, we
these
talked about it 3
6
times.
items are,
See, my sense is, I'm happy, many of us would vote one, like the square should be number one. But we don't want, it's like, well, if that drops another one off the list, well, I'm not terribly happy with that. Whereas if we put forward the ones that we have already said, these are the ones we're interested in. We got community interest and we're interested in it. So we still want to do that. We can't prioritize until we know more information.
I kind of heard from Emily, that we don't need exactly high stuff, because it sounds like the board is going to do a chunk of that for us in this process to be named later, which we don't really
So-
understand right
so-
now.
But you have a motion on the floor.
So then we've spent like 3 months wasting a lot of time and spinning a lot of wheels. And so we either need to move forward and do something that's productive, or we need to just keep spinning our wheels and accept.
And said, not move forward and do something that's not productive at all. That's the question.
But Ann said it'd be nice to have a resolution going in. Have something in your pocket to pull out and say, look,
That's what we did last time.
I do too. I mean, we voted to support these top 3 in each, but do we need to do that again? I don't think we're spinning our wheels. I think some really good ideas and some really good input.
We're still stuck at this one spot. We haven't been able to get past it.
Well, because we don't really feel like we have the
Then we should
information.
just
So
agree
what are
that this is
y'all
where we
saying
are
you
and
want
stop.
to do? What are we
Well, I think at the
saying?
last meeting, we got, it was everyone sitting for, all, us hearing from the whole community, the county hearing from the community. So is there a benefit in CCAC's putting forth a resolution, which basically is, even if the margin was small, saying this, we agree with this priority?
The last thing you want to do is leave it to the board.
I want to follow up on that. Because I couldn't agree with
I
Tom
need all the
more.
ammo I can get.
Yeah.
And the other thing is,
CCAC
like,
didn't weigh in on it.
it's not totally fair to put these 2 separate lists forward, because like Crozet Park has 340 votes, which is more than the square. So I want to make clear that the square is a priority, not the park course, even though the parkers have more.
Right, but I will tell you that, when I think of community, I think the square is probably more important than the park. And the reason I say that is the park has other options for funding.
Yeah. So, right, so I want to make sure, if we just gave these numbers to the
So I mean,
board,
if someone
they
was
might
saying
say,
it's
oh,
a
but
park
the
course
park has.
versus square,
Right, but I'm just saying, like, we're putting a lot of emphasis on these vote tallies.
Sure.
And I think
But
that our.
remember when it was in the newspaper that there were 2 separate votes? You know, the votes, you can't combine the small project votes with the large project.
Well, I think we can now, as far as I have priorities to give to Ann to bring to the board.
Yeah, I
And as
think-
Emily said, it was important to have a wide range of choices depending on what the board decided to do last
I
week.
mean, I
So
understand
at
why
least
we
know
voted
that now.
separately a month ago, but now we can come together and say, you know, this is
So
our.
what are you
resolution.
saying, we should have another vote?
I think it's not even a vote, it's like a motion to say.
Of all these things,
of all
what's
these
our number
things,
one
our
that we want to
first
go
thing.
forward with?
Right.
Yeah, because not just mention that, there's also the downtown DCI who's working on the rest of the whole Barnes Lumber Yard, which is, you know, really, a lot of it is going to be dependent on some of that improvements that would go with that.
Your motion, would you restate it?
Remember what it was?
Let's get
Where's
Mike
Matt?
bring it back.
So long ago. Did you get that? You get it?
So long ago,
You want to read it back?
Oh, that's not fair. Well, then,
I've got 6 of them coming in.
So the motion was that we prioritize the streetscape initiative for the square as the number one priority. And that was your second.
For NIF,
Yeah, yes.
NIF funds, which we really don't have any idea how much those monies are, and nor should we really care. I mean, it's not our,
With the thought that there's matching money available also.
That's right.
And there's a lot of things that make this advantageous for our dollars.
if I would amend your motion, then I would offer that what we should have as a second point to that is that all of the priorities that are being presented matter to Crozet. And that as a budding political organization, community, we should make that clear and heard that these are priorities of the community. Yes, you've asked us for a smidgen here. Here's $200,000. You can build 10 feet of sidewalk. We need to make it clear what our priorities are. And Ann asked for a presentation on this, a nice, short, clear, what is Crozet saying? And that's what I think we ought to give you in terms of ammunition so that you can go in front of your colleagues at the board.
So you're
Okay, so what's
a
the
friendly
lead
amendment is
initiative
that.
with the amendment that there are multiple priorities that are also included in this, but this is identified as the first.
And we recognize those as important to the community, however, not trying to put words in the.
But my question is who decided that the Crozet Square was more important than the
Well, right now, we are.
This
Right now, I made a motion, he seconded it, and we're gonna vote on it. And if we vote it down, then it's not a priority. If we vote for it, then it is a priority.
But all of these things are still important and we'll
Right,
need
they are.
investigation, we'll need Ann to look into funding sources, county staff's gonna price some of these,
And
there's
it's
a
not
lot
the
more to
last
it.
word.
None of these are getting knocked off the list, it's just the group saying,
At
if
this
we were to
moment,
be
with the
asked
information
number
we
one,
have.
But
we
it
would
also
say
gives
number
Ann
one.
guidance about what she's, how she's.
And this doesn't preclude us from doing a follow-up motion about a second priority if we want to do that. That's right.
Tonight or next,
Just
whatever.
It says with the information we have available to us, which may change, this is where we are today.
Right.
That's all it says. And there's a
And it's
second.
been seconded.
So is the amendment, can you give us the amendment again?
Oh.
You want it amended? I think we better have two motions, you know, but.
The motion was that the streetscape is our priority, and it is recognized that it is just one of many things that are priorities for the community. However, it's been identified as the number one priority at this time, with the information
It is
we
for
have.
the board.
I have a question about the motion, still some discussion. That is implying that we're not going to do any more ranking tonight.
No.
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 You've ranked number one.
We're going to rank number one.
That was the second.
There's a second.
I'm ready to vote on it.
Me too.
Any more to say?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did you get a countdown?
No, I said I'm not.
Oh, I think you raised your hand on it.
I did.
Oh, I thought,
Oh.
Okay, so 2 against,
So 2 opposed.
2 opposed, 11 for.
And did you approve streetscape
or square improvements?
Square.
Square, I'm sorry, that's the streetscape?
Yes, you did.
Apologize.
Oh, no.
I says Crozet Square streetscape improvement, so.
Crozet Square.
Square improvement.
It's a done deal, sorry.
Crozet Square.
Now that that is settled, I'd like to raise a second motion that we discuss the second priority and whether we can identify our 1B, whether we can do it and whether that's the right approach.
1B meaning,
The second priority.
Priority number one.
what are you going to take as a second? Are you identifying what the
No,
second?
I'm not. I could make a case.
I just want to know what you're
Yeah, go
proposing.
ahead.
Sure, all right. Look at the list, so Western Park is sort of taking care of other avenues. Crozet Park has other funding sources.
Well,
So
maybe,
I wanna-
maybe, I'm
I
just
want-
saying,
okay,
hold
so-
on. When you're doing that compare like we did, square versus parcours.
Okay, so my motion is that crushed stone for the Crozet Connector Trail should be our second priority. It's and my argument would be, it got extremely strong public support, and it's a relatively cheap option that maybe we could squeeze in and try to get two out of the board and just our top one.
Do we have any idea, just cost per linear foot, just to have some sense of what that could cost?
On the gravel, on the.
Yeah, crushed stone?
You know,
I guess we'll find out from the staff.
if you gave us $50,000, we could probably do 2 miles of it. If you gave us $6,000, we could probably do a half a mile. If we
We
did
just don't
40
know that.
feet, it would be an improvement. If we got it from the park to the daily
I
property,
think
it would
that's a
be an
great
improvement. So how much we get, I mean.
Make it a second.
I'm second.
Good, so we can talk
So,
about it.
so my sense is, it's open, and how much money are we gonna get, and how much money it costs? It's not clear, but it certainly isn't as much as a paved thing. It's
Oh,
just-
absolutely.
And perhaps that's
People do this on their driveway.
That's a great argument for it, is that it's very flexible due to available funding, unlike some of these others, which is sort of, there's a certain threshold that if you don't achieve it, you can't get off the ground.
Or it doesn't have a $3 million capital cost to follow the needs assessment. So, I mean, that's what the part is, that the original plan was in the many millions to do what was originally intended. And now we want to make sure what should be
Yeah, I mean, this
presented.
is shovel ready right now.
Yeah, definitely.
If we can sign up volunteers, it'll be even cheaper.
Yep.
I think it
Bringing in the dump
benefits,
trucks.
it benefits the broader community as well. It increases walkability and connectivity in Crozet, which is a concern. Nobody wants to let their kids or even themselves ride bikes and walk along these roads. It's dangerous,
I think
so.
it's great, and it'll make it clear for me when I'm using the trails, I'm like so paranoid that I'm like on a private trail and not. And so if there's a question, I know I'm using community
That's
area.
down by the dog park. Why don't you, where it starts, so you.
It'll start at the park,
Yeah.
Crozet Park, as you go east, I guess, from the park.
Past
On
the
both
dog
sides
park?
of the dog park, there's a trail, because it's it used to be a loop in the trail. And then it crosses the stream there, across the temporary bridge that was built 3 years ago, the last 45 minutes. And so it crosses there, then it goes through the daily property, and then it goes to West Lake, West Hall, Foothill Crossings, Western Ridge, and hopefully with a little bit of finagling, people from Highlands and Wickham Pond can get here. So, I mean,
And
it really-
the whole distance needs
No,
stone or
no, we
It's only-
would.
From the
some of-
bridge,
The
pond?
thing is, you want some of that trail to be, country trail, and then, but you want some of it to be accessible for handicapped and for people who are baby carriages and things like that. And so the main section of the trail, which goes around that creek that comes out of where Conagra used to be, it's already pretty much laid out. but,
Carrie, yeah.
Can I just add?
Oh,
So that, what I envision is it would actually come up the north side of the dog park and connect with the perimeter trail that's there. I think that would be really great if we could. But,
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
the park board's gonna have to
Well,
weigh in on
but-
that, because I think they wanna keep that very natural around there.
Yeah, but that was-
And that the trail, the pack route or whatever, the crushed stone wouldn't start until after that.
Okay, well, I mean, that would be something to think about, but I'm envisioning connectivity that way, but if we start right out over the bridge, across that little stream, and across past Summerdine Road, entrance at West Hall, past the entrance at Fort Hill, and end at Western Ridge at Fairwinds Lane, you also are then connecting via existing and currently under construction roads and sidewalks to Westlake, to the other side of West Hall, all of those neighborhoods in there with that combination of that packed crushed stone trail plus the sidewalks and bike lanes that have recently been built or are being built, makes a huge connectivity right there by putting in like 1 mile of this packed stone trail.
So it's a gap that's going to exist between what builders are doing and what exists at the park now, and make those connections.
Yeah, it gets us there.
If I could push back a little bit and ask the CCAC to rethink what they're doing. I know what the county's asked you for, I know what the supervisors have asked you for, but I have found historically dealing with supervisors, if you give them a choice, you're not going to like what they come up with. You need to go in with one item, say this is what the community wants to do. Don't give the supervisors a choice, you've made the choice for them. Because if not, you're not going to get back what you like. So,
But we might not want one thing,
but
and then we'll get one thing back.
that's the reason
We
this
want
group
to-
needs to make a decision and say, this is the one going forward. And plug your ears up. But if you give them the choice by giving them multiples and ranking them, you're not going to like what you get. You need to say, this is the community, this is our choice, this is what we want. No choices for you, this is what we're asking for, and move forward.
But can I just ask, if we give them one, but we've already committed to presenting all 6 of these, or all 6 of these are gonna be in the packet, or whatever.
Why?
I think we should just do the 2.
Well, they're already in there, but
Okay.
But why do they need to stay in? And
Bill, I hear what you're saying, but I think that the only reason that this is different is because the county has already committed the X number of dollars to the CAC for our decision. So I don't think it's something that they would look at it and say, oh, crushed rock's a little cheaper, we'll just go with that. You know, I think this is, they're
that's
looking at.
exactly what will happen.
I don't think, like I said, if it was one big pot of money that was coming out of it, but if this is dedicated money to Crozet, then I think that I have a little more confidence. I understand what you're saying, but I have a better confidence level that we would get, sounds like.
This is a new process, right? This is the first time this exercise
Very
has
good.
happened. So, I think it'll be very revealing what the board eventually does. It will inform us as to how I think your instincts are exactly right.
Well, I learned the hard way.
Yeah, right. That's why I was hoping to see if we chose one, we would also complement that with, but by the way, all of these things are important to us.
Well,
And that we
okay.
expect them.
And I would push back also, if there's any chance of all of the park being in the CIP, don't give the county any help. If it's in the CIP and Ann finds it is, you want to move that money someplace else quickly.
I think that what the whole exercise has helped us to see is that our community supports multiple different improvements. And there may well be ways to get to some of those outside of the NIFI. When I did the research on the decorations, for example, and just put a little bit of time in, it occurred to me, and I'm just one person doing a little bit of research, that if we just take the new posts that are on Library Ave and the main streets and kind of around the old library, the train station, we could probably get some community support in just putting up the greens without lights You know what I mean? I mean, it just occurred to me, just one person, that this is something that we could maybe get our community behind. And how do we do that? Maybe we could appeal to some of the churches. Maybe we could appeal to the Boy Scouts that sell the trees.
The Lions Club.
The Lions Club. I mean, so I think one of the things that springs from this is this great generation of ideas. Like community members showed up and sat and brainstormed and wrote on sticky notes and voted with dots. I mean, it's really just all together, it's a win-win situation. I think by reading Anne's face, and she's so diplomatic, but she has this little Mona Lisa smile over there that says, just tell them what you want and don't mess around. Just one thing, just tell them. We've got the rest of these things, and we can support them as a community. And they are important, you know, but we can only do so much. And I think we should keep it clean and straight.
We can only do so much in this process.
For this one board of supervisor for
200 grand process, we can do one thing, but that's not satisfying.
It's opened up a whole lot of, we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community that might not be appropriate for this funding, but Ann can find out, is there money in CIP for this? Is there, she can follow some of these questions that we have to find out, you know, are there funding sources for these? What do those look like for the community as far as timelines? So I think it is still an exercise, it's not a waste of time.
Yeah, and is staff also working on these 6?
Yeah, to get some more detail.
I understood that was coming in June.
Yeah, and possibly some of our smaller projects might be things that local groups want to take up, like some decorative things for holidays. There's a lot of, I would be into.
Those banners, somebody made those.
That we could have identified some really cool things that we can be creative with. We can also identify some things that are major projects that have more appropriate funding sources than this particular one. So from that, I don't feel like we wasted our time, even though it is hard to say this one thing, if we had to pick one thing to push to the board.
We'll just get rated another $1 million, so Hallie's good for it.
I do have a dream, though, in the same way that I don't want to give them an out on the Western Park CIP issue. The square is county property, and so I really want the best success to me would be that a smaller chunk of the 200,000 would be used to get this finishing documents ready to make it shovel ready, and the rest of the money would come from somewhere. So that's my goal. We'll see how we do.
And if that were to occur and you found yourself with $125,000 left over,
Then we know what to go to.
then you know what to go to.
Well, what? On these other things that
But,
are.
yeah, so we're not gonna, what did we decide, we're not
We'll
gonna.
come back. We'll come back. I think-
Do we have a motion on the floor?
We do.
What is the
Yeah.
motion?
So the motion is basically, in addition to our top priority being the square improvement, we should emphasize a second, smaller, much more flexible priority, which is the crushed stone on the connected trail. That it does not take priority over the square, but if the board could squeeze in both, then all the better.
I hear what you're saying, I just don't, my only concern is that, from what I'm hearing from Ann, is that we really don't have enough information yet to make a decision that we should put in anything but the major priority until we find out where those funds are commingled and what we can expect. You know what I mean?
So will you find
Ann comes back
out,
in
June
June.
14th, you'll find that out at that meeting, okay?
And
That's
says,
my understanding.
you know, the square is only, you know, I'm pretty sure the square is only going to be $20,000, so you can ask us then what our other projects should be.
That way we have this discussion again.
We can talk about this.
That would be great.
Well, that's maybe a better discussion, because then we would know we have extra stuff.
Having a discussion, the fact that there's some money is a really cool thing to have. Don't forget that.
Comment from the community?
Sure.
If I could just add to it, I would concur with one recommendation going forward, because it's a given there are other recommendations. Ann is saying she could use some support from a resolution that says, what is your one priority? It's clear that there are other priorities because the board has this information. if you give them two priorities, you run the risk of them funding the smaller one and letting the other one set aside. I mean, you still put it back to them to make some decision instead of having a clear message from the community. These are the things that are important to us, and this is the one thing we want you to do now. And then all those other things will fall through, either through DCI's efforts, or the park board's efforts, or the community's efforts, or going back to the board for other funds. And I just encourage you to really think closely about giving them more than one option.
I mean, have we not heard that the money's not gonna get taken from us, that somebody else is not gonna get our money? So if we don't get this one, we have a chance to vote again, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I think we go to the one vote, and then if it doesn't work out,
Well, I
there's
just
no,
want
there's no reason. What's that?
I just want to
The
make
motion
the
is still on
argument.
the floor, so you can withdraw your motion.
Why don't I withdraw it instead of losing it? So,
Your second, you're gonna withdraw?
But you potentially have the option to make it again.
They get to say
We could actually just table it at this point.
yeah, how about we table it?
Table.
Yeah.
You don't have to unmotion.
You may very well be relevant quickly. Who knows?
He goes work in it, that's good.
When the board
I
has
think
a
it was a
zero,
very
they're off.
worthwhile
But-
discussion.
Let's table that one.
We'll table that one. Okay, that one's tabled. Come back to it next month, depending on what happens at the board.
I think we need to adjourn.
Stress and feeling of
So I'm not sure how much further we can really talk this through tonight, because I think at this point, we're waiting on the board on the 14th. So I think at this time, we need to make a motion
Or you want a resolution?
for resolution.
We have the word in the motion.
The motion is the resolution.
Yeah, I think the motion could be the resolution.
So, do we have to vote on that, or is that?
I thought you
You
voted
did.
on it.
You did.
Yeah, we voted, so it cannot get written up and sent on, signed.
Does Mike do that, or?
Nice.
Usually it's
Pass.
Nice.
Mike, work with Dave, sir, he usually works on
I know.
this.
Dave
He's the one
has
that
some
covers.
templates where we
He's gotta
can
be-
look for.
Yeah, I don't know, there's a specific template.
Yeah,
that
Dave-
you need.
Dave
So
has
on
that.
a whereas,
Okay.
whereas, therefore, blank.
That's fine, I can send it, he can send it to me and then I can write it.
Whereas, blah, blah, therefore, blah, blah.
Good.
Whereas,
Exactly.
therefore.
That
So the
said,
motion is get Dave to write the resolution.
that said, though, as many members of the CCAC should show up to support the resolution at the meeting, unlike in the past.
And that's the meeting on what day?
June 14th.
June 14th.
What time, 6 o'clock?
I think I
4
said
o'clock?
a work session at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
I'll confirm the agenda is fine. The agenda is mutable until it is not, which is the Friday before the meeting. So right now it's on at 4 on the 14th, but I will send an email to let everyone know when
And
it's
you'll
expected.
take matters from the public, or is it a?
It's not a public hearing, so you could speak under matters from the public, and I assume that would be at 6 o'clock, but again, that can change based on,
In that
All
case,
kinds of
sending it
things.
in early for the packet would be the best approach. So if we get it before the Friday before, then it can go in. Or anytime.
The resolution
Yes.
should be in their packet.
And so who will it be you, Ann, who is sort of presenting our case on our one priority?
Yeah, I mean, I don't,
There'll be someone from the committee who will present the resolution to the board.
but I mean, I think if there's any question about there not being matters from the public at 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
Right.
then having it in
The packet.
the packet already means
That
I
would
can
be
just pull it
good.
out and say, this is what
It-
they would have presented this afternoon if
Right.
they didn't.
In that case, it's a work session, you don't get to speak, so it's in the packets, and we don't have to go essentially, because we couldn't.
Well,
debate
anyway,
it.
but every supervisor has it in their packet, knowing that's coming forward from CCAC.
the
But it's
packets.
always nice to see you.
It absolutely is, you can stand there and
Do it for sign, I'm from.
Crozet.
The packets are sent out the Wednesday before.
We could do the upper proposal.
So if we could get it out the first week of June, that would be really great.
Okay.
You're gonna pass it on.
Absolutely, because he's the chair.
And our next meeting after that, June 14th date, so we can react to whatever comes up.
Okay, so I think that wraps that up. Do we need to discuss CCAC priorities for the hunter time running?
I would like to have some conversation around the survey. Find out where we are with the survey, what the objectives are, because I think that unfortunately, if the survey were done by now, we might have some more information as to how to move forward on this particular request and all things, but the survey, I think, is going to be very important going forward.
Well, you love the survey crews, can I just?
Yeah, you did.
Very up to date on the survey. Thanks to Jenny and Tim and a lot of work from other people, we have the survey funded. So the way the survey is going to work, we hope, the ball's on poor Tim, as always. But we hope to get the survey out by the end of the month. The survey will be two surveys. One is going to be what's called a scientific survey, and that's going to mail out 3,000 letters that will have a code in it. So when you take the survey online, you put your code in, and we would then use those returns for the data itself, to compile the data. We will look at all the data that comes in. So in other words, in the Gazette, there's going to be a paper copy of the surveys, and there will be copies here at the library that people can fill out. We'll enter that data later, as far as a composite. I want to say that the survey committee is remarkable. And one of the nice things about Crozet is if you need help, you can easily find it and find good help. We actually have Tom Gudabak from the University of Virginia, who's head of the research there. Sean, who does political polling, and Tim has his PhD in social science, and then the rest of us who, were there and helped them. But what we did is we took the 2009 survey as the basis. In other words, what we did is looked at the last master plan and said the plan is valid. So where do we go from here? So we essentially took the 2009 survey, which was the basis for that master plan, and moved that forward, updated it, changed questions, added questions, reformatted questions, thanks to the input from the pros from Dover here. And so we hope to get that out within a week or so, and it'll be in the June Gazette. And we hope to get back we hope to do as good as we did last time. You have to remember in 2009, with a population of about 3,000 people in Crozet, we got back over 700 survey responses and over 1,200 comments. And I can't tell you as a planning commissioner how valuable that data was. Every time I made a decision, I had no problem knowing that I was really voting with the conscience of the community. So it'll be interesting to see that with the changes in the population and the changes in the demographic, what comes out of the survey. And we'll have a meeting later, But I want to correct something that unfortunately Jim Duncan in his Real Crozet things has been portraying this as a master plan update. This is not. This is just a survey that we'll use as data to start the conversation for a master plan update. But I just want to make that very clear. It's been a survey. The meetings have been opened. Anybody could take part. We queried all the organizations in town for questions that we put in the survey. And when we got questions back, we added those. So we're ready to go, and you'll keep your eye on the sign on the firehouse, and you'll know we're up and running.
How many questions were?
It's
34?
34. It takes about
Under 20 minutes.
Huh? Under 20 minutes.
Under 20 minutes.
That's our song. We're staying
Right.
But it's under 20 minutes to take the survey, and it covers Crozet A to Z, so to speak.
And I really want to reiterate that point because it's been referred to as this master plan survey. And it is a community survey. It covers so many topics that it certainly, things we learn from the survey might inform master plan revision. But there's such a broad range of questions that I think there are so many different groups and stakeholders and associations that will be able to gather useful information from this, or even just community members. I'm curious about what my neighbors think. Just for that, to me, it's a benefit to know what other people are thinking. And, I have an idea what I think people think, but I like to see it. And I really think that the way it's been sort of dubbed this master plan survey is a little bit misleading, because it is, as the survey comes out, you'll see there's so many types of questions, and I think a lot of us will be really curious to see the answers that our neighbors give.
What is the name of it then? Is it just Crozet information?
Crozet Community Survey.
Okay.
And it's, I will say one thing too, is that we not only are going to survey Crozet residents, but we're surveying residents outside of Crozet. For instance, if you look around down 250 corridor, because as we all know, what happens in Crozet doesn't always stay in Crozet. There's traffic that other people, people in Ivy, everybody feels the effects of what happens in us. So we thought it was important to get some of the input from our neighbors as well as Crozetians.
Well, this is exactly why it's not a master plan update. It's just,
Right.
there is no Crozet other than the community that we create, and you reaching out.
Bite your tongue.
Well, it may not have boundaries.
It doesn't.
It definitely isn't it, but it may
So
not.
when you devised this, what was the purpose, the ultimate purpose?
Well, the ultimate purpose is to use this, is to do a master plan update. Our master plan update was due to be revised in 2015. And the county has told us that it may be as late now as 2018 or later until the master plan gets revised. So rather than wait and take the chance, because we've already seen some of the problems that have occurred with the current master plan, because the language was ambiguous or could be looked at in different ways, that we felt it was important to update the master plan so that we can clarify a lot of the language in it, and get back to, and see where we're going with it, again, based on the results. So assuming the master plan is good, where do people want to take it to the next step for the next 5 years? And that's what we're doing.
I think one more thing I'd like to add is, as Tom described, this survey will be a little different from the one in 2009 in that we are doing the mailing and having this random sample, and there's a cost associated with that. I'd like to have a number I could give you about what it would cost if we just paid someone to do everything that all these people in Tim and everyone has done. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it would be a whole heck of a lot of money. And
You can hire me.
yeah.
We can't afford you.
But there is a cost associated, and we have tried to be thrifty. We have gone through different scenarios of where we could cut money, what are the best types of mailings, gotten some advice from Sean and Tom Gruderbach. And, we have asked to raise some money for this, and we are struggling to get to, a place where we can just we're getting the letter out, but we may not be able to do some of the follow-up things. So we're putting a call out to the community that my thought was some community members might think there's some stakeholders that have, more hundreds of dollars to throw at this, and it's not to worry, it'll get funded.
What's the budget that you need?
Well, and I think ultimately we asked for 6,000, and that left some cushion for things that we couldn't predict, like how many follow-up mailers. If we don't get a lot of response to the letters we send, then we need to send out a reminder postcard.
Yeah.
Right, we have enough money to send the letters. We don't have enough money to do mailers and some of the follow-up things. So we really are asking the community to consider, $25, $50, all that is what anything many people can give. I think a lot of times people think about when you're asked to give, if you don't have hundreds of dollars, then, you kind of cross it off your mind. But we're at a place where we are so close, and we are very thankful for those who've given, but if people consider spread the word, you know, we're going to put out some more emails that a little tiny bit from a lot of different people could get us to where we need to be, because it's been a lot of hard work and we were really proud of it. I'm very proud of it, or I wouldn't be doing it. So.
Have you sent the email?
Emails have gone out. Do you have the link still up on the?
CrozetCommunity.org/2007/donate-survey. And
You
just
got
tweeted
that?
it out, and it went out in the last news, the
I'll just
last
go to the
CCA
website.
letter, and it's on the website.
And I can send you an email too that has like a hyperlink too. So.
You're gonna send, you said
Yeah.
you're gonna send that on, John?
And just so everyone knows, from an industry standpoint, to achieve the sort of number of completed interviews we hope to achieve for that price tag is a hell of a bargain. A lot of people put in a lot of volunteer time into it to make that happen. So we should be really proud of the fact that we could generate such a high quality survey, hopefully, for a very, modest budget.
What's that number we hope to hit?
I think 800 completes, I think would give us a lot of numbers, to be able to slice the data in different ways, to look at different demographics that way and compare it to the 2009 survey.
And is the survey committee going to be tallying these?
And all data eventually is going to be made public.
Yes, my new motto is, it's your town, it's your thoughts, it's your future.
It's your data.
Yeah.
Town.
Well, I would hope that we would have
It
this
is a
standing item on the CCAC
It's
board
not the-
agenda.
Census
Right.
designated.
Yeah,
We
we
can
could
keep
have a
updates.
full-
And one question, because I've been trying to think of group lists that we have that are appropriate. We have Crozet Board of Trade lists we've emailed to. We're going to send another list, another request to that, because we thought maybe it came across as we're only looking for big spenders when $20, $10, I mean, if we can stumble our way there, then we did it.
I haven't seen a request, I wouldn't give me $20 if I got it, because I haven't seen it.
So I wondered, is it appropriate to?
You're not
send-
reading the editorials.
I don't know.
Send
I think
something.
I am, but I haven't seen
Do
it.
me a favor, send something that we
I
can
only got
then
it from
send
the-
out
I only got it from the board.
Okay.
to distribute
How do you
as
know?
well.
So can I email the
We can go,
CCAC and then the Google group list?
That seems
Is it appropriate?
Yes.
Because that's a lot of people. Like the
What's the
group,
notify, the
the notify?
Yeah, that's,
Can I send to that? Is that questionable?
If I were to donate money, who am I giving it to?
Crozet Board of
Crozet Board of
Trade,
Trade.
Okay.
which is a 501c3 organization.
And
I
what
think you
we,
need to lead with that.
Yeah.
yeah, we have a script that explains what we're asking for, why you can go to this link to donate or mail a check to this PO box.
I'm getting rid of the editorial page because obviously nobody reads it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it should be stated, the origin of the survey is the Crozet Community Association, which has been in existence for over 30 years.
So is the opinion of the group and others that it would be appropriate to email that request with information to CCAC and then the notify?
That's my opinion.
It goes against the charter of what the CCAC notified group was
Okay.
formed for.
Oh,
I
would
would be
it-
cautious with that. You'll get
What
people
about-
unsubscribing.
Okay, what about just CCAC?
Let's leave CCAC.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean, that's
they-
this body here, so you
Yeah,
guys can decide you want that
If I email it to those
email.
people and Kim wants to email it to her board,
Right.
then everybody can spread it around.
And it's also posted on the CCA website if you want to cut and paste from there.
Okay,
I took
So-
Mike's letter that went to the Crozet Board of Trade and posted it on the CCA website.
okay. So I can just do the group list. Y'all are all.
And then we'll shoot it out.
And I think I still have permission to email you all, but if I don't, then I'll get Dave or someone to send it. But I think I have permission still to send to the list.
Or just a note that says, here's the link to the CCA thing.
Yeah, you could just
Use
put-
that and not,
Right.
that keeps it
Right.
clean.
How many dollars is in the second survey?
You guys Or if your textbooks are here, I mean, Mike's right there, he's the president of the CBT. So,
That's right, I'm taking your checks tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah.
You'll notice he's between you and the door.
That's right, I've got you on film.
Yeah. Board of
You can donate right here, I'll let you use my computer.
Now,
Yes, sir. I have an announcement. John.
There's nothing else I can.
I have an announcement.
Oh,
If we're into announcements, yeah.
Okay, we're into announcements.
The Crozet Independence Day celebration planning, our meeting is tomorrow at 7:30. So to tag on to Leslie's comment about community getting involved in decorating light posts or whatever, that this is our community event. It happens because community members want it to happen. There are no paid positions for this. All the money that is raised gets donated back to the community. Last year, we gave money to the Crozet Firemen to support the sign, as well as donations to the Western Alamo Rescue Squad and several other civic groups in town. This will be our 7th year of doing it. So we need not only your support, but we need your hands and your minds engaged in this. So if you can come to the firehouse tomorrow at 7:30 to help us plan. Otherwise, look for the emails that will be coming about needing volunteers to help on July 1st on Saturday to help with taking the ticket to the door. That might be one thing for the CCAC to think about. You guys wear a little name tag, so people that come through there, we get 2,500 to 3,500 people in that afternoon. And that lets people put a face and a name to a CCAC member if you're there helping to take money at the gate. I've asked for years to have a CCA table at the event so that you can show them the plans for NIFI, show them the plans for the master plans.
we
So I
had a
urge
table
you-
one year.
You had a table one year.
Yeah.
So I urge you to really think about this as ways that you can actually engage the community with and connect with them.
I sure would want to do it.
Kim, I think the newest members have to do the table, isn't that the rule? Riley, Sean was telling me that he really wanted to do it.
Well, we did have to
that
remember
member.
again.
Let's set the meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Wasn't I you?
I was sure. No, but Tim, are you looking for people to join it?
Yes.
Like, open community to
Yes.
do like vetting
It's
process?
no vetting process, it's posted on the Real Crozet calendar website already. It was mailed out in the newsletter, we'd love to have you come.
When is tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, 7:30
At the fire.
at the firehouse. And if you can't make the meeting, just give me your email address and name, and I will send you the notes from the meeting and let you know when the next one is. We're probably only gonna have 3 meetings before the end of July, before we get to the event.
Well, I'll try to
Because
publicize it.
we're sort of inside the zone now where we've got to start running hard or we're not going to make it.
We're gonna make it, Tim.
Oh, I know we
Yeah,
are.
we're gonna.
That's not a ball.
That's
Never
right.
let drop.
That's right. That's right.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, Crozet Car Show this Saturday at Crozet Park from like 8 to 1. Last year I think it was over at Old Trail and they needed more room, so they were coming over to the park and hopefully it'll be nice weather and
Supports the park.
supports the park. It'll be a very interesting event. Come see the torn up fields too.
It's free.
Yeah,
I just want to say it's free.
The festival was just,
Pay to show the park.
Yeah.
Was Sunday
it
a
was good
banner
weather,
day?
really good.
Good weather.
Good weather, unbelievable crowds.
How many people showed up? 10,000?
Oh, yeah.
Not sure, but, we could barely keep up. I think they ran out of parking when I heard in the neighborhoods, so, it was
How many
crazy.
cars?
2 whole days of stuff.
I can't even
First
tell
time in
you.
6 years.
Yeah, no kidding.
It was crazy. Crazy good.
Anything else, or are we 15 minutes early tonight?
Pam will be
Go
so
for
happy.
it, go for it. 15 minutes early.
And you all did see on the agenda for June, the Red Eye Water and Sewer folks are going to come and give a short introduction to the infrastructure planning process that they're starting for the Crozet. So that'll be a good one to come to and learn all about that. I'm trying to say,
Thank you, sir.
Here comes my little
Oh, thank you, Sandra.
You know,